So what is osteoporosis? It's basically reduction in the density of your bones. So if you take a wall which is made up of, for example, which is made up of 100 red bricks, that's normal bone. Now from that wall, if you remove 50 bricks, you're only left with 50 remaining bricks. That is called as osteoporosis. So it's a quantitative problem in the structure of your bone. Now, what's the problem with osteoporosis is that it's essentially a silent disease. Means there are no warning signs or no alarm bells that really start throwing off gradually. But the biggest or the first manifestation of osteoporosis is often a fracture when it's too late to really go back and reverse it. So the DEXA scan is really the gold standard for measuring your bone health. So who should do a DEXA scan? By and far, all women and men above the age of 65 to 70 respectively, as also more importantly, postmenopausal women who are above the age of 50 to 55 and men above 50 with certain risk factors like smoking, excessive use of steroids, excessive alcohol or tobacco consumption should also do a DEXA scan. So that is what the really DEXA scan tells you is about your bone health. It's the gold standard test to tell you or reflect about your bone health.
And Sahil, just to double click on that, is there any downside for a 40-year-old, right? For example, to do a DEXA scan? I mean, there is a little bit of radiation, but I'm assuming that's not excessive.
No, there's absolutely no downside to doing a DEXA scan if you're in your 40s, because the dose of radiation is really low. And you don't really need to keep doing a DEXA scan every month. You at the most repeat it once in a year or once in 2 years. So it's a very minimal dose of radiation that's actually being used in a DEXA scan.
Yeah. And from what I understand, I've done a DEXA scan once or twice, and it gives you more than just bone health. Right? It also gives you some other pretty useful metrics. Anything you would say on those other metrics, Sahil, or would you just look at it for the bones health?
Correct. So one important thing that a lot of people, especially athletes, look into and why they use a DEXA scan is because it also tells you and accurately reflects your fat percentage. For example, if I weigh 70 kgs and I want to know how much of that is really made up of my bones and how much of that weight is actually being contributed by the fat in my body, that's also an important metric that the DEXA scan throws up. In addition, it can also tell you which part of your bones are becoming more weaker. Is it your spine that's more at risk? Is it your wrist joint or your hip joint? So there are a lot of different parameters that the DEXA scan throws up, and these are the two main ones.
Yeah. And I just want to add for everybody else on the call that you get these cheaper 2,000 rupee BCA scales on Amazon, and it will tell you your visceral fat, it will tell you your bone health. They're not very accurate, but they serve more as a trending thing, right? Is it going up? Is it going down? But the thing that's special about DEXA scan is that it gives you a 3D view of, like Sahil said, is it this part of your is your issue in the upper part of your body? Is it in your arms? Is it in your legs? So it can give you sort of a much better view. And so the way I personally do this is I have the cheaper scales at home that I can use on a daily basis. That's more to know whether it's moving up or down. I do a in-body scan, which I do probably once every 3 months. And I do a DEXA scan every couple of years. And so between these things, you can get a pretty good sense for how your body is evolving. And it also brings up an important point, and which is we always measure ourselves based on our weight. We judge ourselves on our weight. But there can be two people with the exact same weight, but with very different body compositions. One can have a lot of muscle, reasonable amount of fat, good bone health. Somebody else could have a lot of fat, not too much muscle, poor bone health. Both will have the same weight. And so that's something that I think, I'm sure, Sahil, you get asked this question a lot, right? Hey, what about my weight is too much? But it's about what's the composition of your weight, right?
Correct. And also dealing with weight, it's important whether is it central obesity or again peripheral obesity. We won't go into that, but that again is important, and that's also where the DEXA scan is kind of useful.